Hey, how y'all doing?
Hello, hello.
Go ahead, Kim. You can start her up when you're ready.
Well, before we officially start Metaphysical Matters, let's just kind of get caught up. How's your week been? What's been going on? What's been the theme of the week?
Two things. Deja vu. As we were just talking before we hit the thing, I have been experiencing deja vu like crazy lately. It's almost like I'm just waiting for the next little episode so I'll know what's coming next. So evidently the thing that's going on around here is that and lack of sleep. I have no sleep because my child has no sleep. So my child, when he has no sleep, makes sure that I have no sleep. So the boy, he's bless his heart, I know he can't help it. I know he can't. But at the same time, it's just like I'm torn. Rather like just do him in and see if I can get away with it when he does his stuff. And it's like he comes around the house in the middle of the night, making forts. I'm trying to sneak into my room like I'm not going to wake up.
What's he making forts out of?
Pillows, blankets, and chairs. He comes in, and it takes me a while to realize he's wearing my long nightgown. So he's just kind of floating.
If he's wearing your long nightgown, he needs a fort. That boy needs a fort.
He's like floating. It's like he's floating around the house in high spirits with my nightgown like trailing behind him. And it's like, and then of course next day I feel real bad, because I feel like I was, go back to bed now, and all this stuff. But I mean, I start out so nice. I read to him and start out so nice, and I end up. This is where that white right there. That's where it's come from, right there.
You're like, is it Madeline Kahn in Young Frankenstein, where she suddenly gets the shock of white? Now I know it's because she had a relationship with Frankenstein, but you got it all at one time dealing with Dylan.
Yeah, basically.
Well, but you know what you told me that you did a long time ago when Calvin and Hobbes, that comic strip, was really popular. Mm-hmm. You wished that you would have a kid like Calvin, and you got one.
I did. And honestly, I don't know if that was a curse or a blessing. I'll take it as a blessing, but I have to wonder about it sometimes when I feel like I feel today.
Oh, I think you should be really happy and proud that
he's a blessing.
He's his own person. He's a free spirit.
Absolutely.
I think it's great.
He's a blessing. He really is, and I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all.
Okay, let's officially get started.
Okay.
All right, welcome to Metaphysical Matters with Angela Moore. I'm Kim Clark. And what we thought we'd do, we said last week that we were going to talk about otherworldly beings. So we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. But we thought we'd wrap up a little bit from last week. And we started out last week talking about Lionsgate, which is an astrological passage, a portal. And we didn't get too much into the astrology of it. We were just talking about the energy of last week, which was kind of tumultuous, I would say, for the most part. We had some folks said the energy had been great for them. But anyway, that made me interested in what might have happened during Lionsgate in the past. Because, these things seem to...
they come in bunches.
Yeah, you can see these patterns. Okay, this year, during Lionsgate, or right around Lionsgate, we had the 3 mass shootings, unfortunately. We had the one in California. We had the Toledo, Ohio. We had El Paso. We also had...
Not Toledo.
Dayton, sorry. Somebody made a faux pas and called it Toledo, so I picked up on that. And also, we had the apparent death of Jeffrey Epstein, which goes very deeply into a dark side of something. We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, I think it's a very... it could be a very impactful event. Okay, in the past... The atomic bombs were dropped during Lionsgate. In 1964, the Gulf of Tonkin resolution was passed that led to our expanded involvement in Vietnam. Marilyn Monroe died during Lionsgate. She was a very iconic figure in American culture. In 1990, Operation Desert Shield started during Lionsgate. The Watts riots in Los Angeles started during Lionsgate. Nixon resigned during Lionsgate. And Jerry Garcia, again another cultural icon, died during Lionsgate. Woodstock started right after Lionsgate. So what do you feel about that?
The way I look at it is, everything is kind of interconnected to everything else. So I want to say that, you have these things that we look up to the stars or whatever, and they reflect, I don't know that they cause, but they are connected to the same energy that causes these things to happen. Anytime, even like in my own personal practice, I always tell people I see people in bunches. Usually it's birthdays. Everybody will come, everybody will be, as a matter of fact, an Aquarius lately. Everybody will be this, but sometimes I will get people that are like, one day I had 5 Pats. I had no idea that was going to happen. And one day, one time I had people from 3 different parts of the state, totally unrelated. That's all I had that day. They were all police dispatchers. I mean, what are the odds? And then, one time, 2 people completely unrelated, coming from different parts of the state, they were each concerned about their mothers getting rent from their trailer parks that they own.
That's pretty specific.
I mean, really? I mean, that is like just to the point of being bizarre. So I think that things like that do come in cycles. I'm not a bit surprised that there have been, you take that little microcosm that is my little world, that it doesn't surprise me a bit that expands into the greater universe. It doesn't surprise me at all. I have noticed, just through observation, that there's certain times of the year tend to bring certain kinds of events as well,
Yeah, I always notice that in spring, like early to mid-April is usually a very bumpy time. And it's a time people are moving around. If they're going to move to a new house, you have a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
I notice people tend to, the world tends to have more warlike activity November too. I've just noticed.
Well, and that's JFK was assassinated in November.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. And also a kind of a wrap up from last week. We talked about walk-ins, and we kind of drifted back a little bit into, no pun intended, really, into out-of-body experiences, which we talked about the week before. And after we got finished, you asked me to make a note of a story that you wanted to share about that, and
I've got lots of stories.
Okay,
to
well
share.
let's turn you loose.
But this
then.
one, this one about this one experience. I was just going to tell you, and I do have her permission to tell it. I was busy minding my own business, as I frequently do, and I was like washing dishes or something I rarely do, and I felt a spirit of a young woman. It was like she was there, and I just knew it wasn't right. So I remember telling her, you need to get back in your body now. You're not supposed to be here. Get back into your body, because I just felt like as I was supposed to say. Well, then later I got a phone call, and it turned out that a friend's daughter, one of my friends, of course, now, had a terrible accident, and they didn't know if she was going to live. And I do believe that she came out of her body, and I just happened to be in the right space to feel that. And she had more experiences, which I can't really share because I don't remember them. But, for example, I think I told them I saw, when they were asking me about a figure in her room, a man in a glowing suit, a white suit, I think is what it was. Anyway, when she actually came to and everything, she was asking about this man that was in her room. So, evidently we were there sharing energy for a while. And, and while I do that all the time anyway, energetically, because as we said before, everything that exists is energy, and we feel and pick up on the vibrations and whatnot, and then I translate them into some way that makes sense to me. That feels to me more of her being out and about, still tethered to her body, and visiting me.
One other aspect of this this individual and the events that surrounded that accident that she had, because I was, at that time, was a co-worker with her mom. So her mom shared some of these stories with me, but they started to have, after the recovery process began, they started to have some pretty powerful spiritual experiences, synchronicities. In your experience, does a traumatic event like that open the door to that kind of stuff? It can.
It don't always, obviously, but it absolutely can. It changes, raises, let's say, your vibration to where maybe you're more aware of things that have been there all along. Or maybe now it's just been brought to your attention because it's time for these things to be brought to your attention. There's such a thing as timeliness that maybe we're not going to understand here in our mortal mind, but maybe as we continue our growth and our progress, we might be able to have more glimpses of all that.
Okay. All right. Well, this week we said we were going to talk about otherworldly beings, fairies, and such. And you told me a long time ago that when you see a deer and it seems like it's a meaningful sighting of a deer, that it can be an invitation to the realm of the fairy. Agree? You still?
I do believe that,
Okay.
and I don't even like saying that word. Let's call them the good people, because they are. I have no evidence to tell you. I don't know why I'm telling you this stuff. I'm going to say stuff that I can't say. Well, I read this in this book, or I have been trained by this great guru. I can only tell you what I perceive and what I feel. I have learned some stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going with what I feel, and I don't feel they like to be called things. They like to be called the good people. They say, didn't you feel this? Something I read, that when there were the angels at the beginning of before time, the good ones that stayed and fought with God are angels, and the ones that fell this side of Lucifer, those are the demons, which demons are just basically wandering wayward spirits, but people get all bent on shape. But there can be very bad ones too. Very, very bad ones. Very many levels. Okay, but anyway, they say that the ones that couldn't decide, they became the good people, and that they are hoping to make their way back into good graces again. But they really don't always like to mess with us. They're careless and carefree. And when I say careless, that means they really could care less, maybe, about, they can connect and maybe have a good time with us at times. They can. But you got to take them as they are. You can't try to control them. You can't try to, you got to be real careful walking that line. That's just all I'm saying, real careful. Now, you can leave them gifts, and you can easily offend them too. But I'll tell you this little weird thing that happened. By the way, my name is Angela Faye. Angela, as you know, means angel or messenger. And Faye, and I didn't know this as an adult, and I actually collected, and still collect on occasion, fairies. And I found out that Faye means fairy. It means enchanted or of the fairies. So I'm actually an angel fairy or an angel messenger or a fairy messenger. So I thought, oh my God, all this time. Yeah, anyway, I have no idea what was I talking about now. God, here it goes again. I swear I cannot take much more myself.
While you're finding your place there,
Good luck with that.
Let me just say the reason I brought up the deer is because I knew we were going to talk about otherworldly beings, the good people today. And a deer crossed in front of me right before I got to Angela's house, which I thought seemed very fortuitous.
Especially since I live downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just right down around the curve there. Okay, you said you can leave them gifts.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you do that? I mean, how do you...
Okay. Where I used to live.
And why would you do it?
I'll tell you. Where I used to live, you shouldn't do it unless you just feel led to do it. So there's no good reason to do it. You should leave things alone. Having said that, I'm drawn to it, and I think there's probably a reason I'm drawn to it. I don't know the reason. I just know I am. But anyway, it was just kind of weird. My daughter and her friend, my niece and their friend, they were messing around with a Ouija board in the house. They were young, and they were just messing around and stuff. And they started getting a message about the fairy realm, which I felt very strongly was right there. I think there are portals everywhere, but I felt them right there. Anyway, the house where everything that can be weird happened, that house. But anyway, they were doing that, and it's instead leave us gifts. And they didn't even know and I'm thinking, I know what this is. And then they said, what gift? And this is what it said, and they knew nothing about this. Milk. That's the gift you want to leave them. You put out a saucer of milk, and if a cat don't get it or whatever, it's supposed to be there. Now, you might put it out and nothing happens. It's still there next morning. Pour it on the ground, because they say that they take the essence of that milk, the essence of it. But yeah, I do think, now this is a weird story. You want me to tell you a weird one?
What do you think?
Another weird one?
We say yes.
Okay. I felt, again, I feel them sometimes. I'm not taking it back, okay? Just deal with it, people. And I felt them, and I had this, I don't know, I was going through yet another stressful time. It's what I do. I go through stressful times. And I was thinking, I don't know, maybe I should ask for assistance in some way. So I made a note, and I took them out to the magic tree that was in my yard. Got stories about that tree, too. I got stories, people. Anyway, I took it out there, and I left it. And then I just kind of forgot about it. It was just basically an exercise, I guess, in me trying to manifest something to get through whatever I was going through. Because I don't remember what I was going through, but I do remember this. So anyway, here's what was happening. People used to, record on cassettes when they'd come to see me sometimes. And I don't really do much recording now because I'll think about the recording and not what I want to say. But at the time, I would do them. And I would sometimes keep, tapes for people. And somebody came and I put it in and I was making sure it was a new one. And it was making this sound, and I thought it was my machine. And she said, the lady who was there said no, she knew other people had come to see me, and these other people were all saying the same thing, that all the recordings were like static, and they were not all using my machine. They were using various machines, and this was a new tape. So I thought, well, that is weird. Something in this room, the energy in this room is making those tapes not record. So anyway, after she left and everything, I got that new, because it was new. Like I said, I put it in the machine again to just listen to it, and I heard a voice. And it sounded like my voice, which, oddly enough, people hear my voice randomly. Even I've heard my own voice. I thought it was my daughter. There was nothing there. But anyway, it said through the static, and it was hard to hear. And it shocked me. At first I thought, this is like an answering machine or something. I thought, I don't have an answering machine. But it was... Angela, static, leave us static messages. Angela, leave us messages. Now, I have witnesses. I have people that listen to that. And it was what was weird. I actually had it in a car with my friend. We were going up the mountain, and we were listening to it, playing over and over. And the more we listened to it, the louder the voice got, and the less loud the static was. And again, very clear. Angela, leave us messages. Well, anyway... This girl, the one actually that did the Ouija with the previous thing, she was over there listening to it, and she's saying, huh, and she was getting real spacey. And she does not know why she did this. And Blanca, I'm talking about you in case you're on here. She erased it. It's like she just went into some sort of a trance-like thing. It was gone.
Oh, wow. How interesting.
It was just crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of otherworldly being, I think, activity over there at that house. But you can ask me about sometime if you want to, about the otherworldly beings.
Well, there is something I made a note of, because it was not too long after I first came to you for a reading and we became friends, there was something about a gnome-like being that your daughter and her friends saw. There. You remember that?
Oh, actually, that was a neighbor and my ex-husband saw something. They said they saw it come running from behind my house, through my yard. I didn't see this. And then down the front road. And they said they were talking amongst themselves about it. And they said they didn't know what it was, but whatever it was running on hind legs, So, and now there might be another one because I can't remember stuff.
Well, I remember this because the girl, your daughter's friend, who was involved with this...
It's Blanca.
No.
Shannon, but she goes by Blanca on here.
Was working at a convenience store. And...
Oh, Christy.
Exactly. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. Anyway, I do. There was a little gnome-like guy inside your house that they saw.
I wrote about that in my book. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, we're going to have to just have a whole nother thing about all the stuff that went on over there. Yeah. I don't even. And it wasn't a gnome-like thing. It was a cat. Okay. Do you want me to tell it? Because I feel like I'm wasting energy here. People might want to know something.
No, go for it.
Yeah, I sent them messages. I didn't send any more after that, Renee. No, I felt like...
What message did you send?
That was it. I just sent them a message like, can you be of help to me or something like that. And I guess they said yes, and I decided it's okay. Did faces and clouds mean thing? Okay, human beings will create, imagine or create designs that make sense to them when they see these things. So in one way, this is a human thing to see faces in clouds or see shapes in clouds and all that, science thing, okay? However, if you keep seeing faces, or if you keep seeing certain things in the clouds, then I think the universe might be speaking to you that says, pay attention maybe to the people you see, or, hey, guess what? You have people who are looking out for you, and we want to make darn sure you know that. So I think that, yes, you can see these. I think we don't understand a lot of stuff at a conscious level, but maybe everything is speaking to us at an unconscious level. And speaking of faces and clouds, I was going up a hill to go to the pharmacy I used to work, and there was a face like a big bearded man's head, and it was not like, oh, if you look like this, or oh, isn't that amazing? It was like you had carved it out. It was perfect. There was no wind. It was huge. I slammed the brakes on my car and sat and looked at that, because I have never seen anything like that before since. Later, I found out a girl up in PG had seen the same thing, which made me really happy to know, I'm not just hallucinating stuff, But yes, I do think that fairy beings, since that's what this is about today, the good people, I do think they can go from one realm to another. I do think that they can be very mischievous. I think they can hide things. Please bring back my key. I do think that they can play games, and they can maybe even bestow upon us maybe some sort of gifts of insight and whatnot. And I think you just have to treat them with great respect, which I do.
Can they take the form, and let me give you a little background. I want to ask you a few questions about this. Where I live, there in the woods, there's something that to me looks like what I would call a fairy ring. There's nothing growing in it. It's in the middle of the woods, and there's no big trees in it. There's just a little bit of scrub, and then within that, there's a pretty barren, smaller circle within that. And in my house, a lot of times, I see out of the corner of my eye what looks like cats running around. Could that be them?
That's the story I was getting ready to tell you.
Okay.
And I hope I'm not boring you all to death with all this, because I feel like maybe I am.
No.
But it was just one of these really crazy things. My son, who is now 38, he was just a little kid then, probably about 10, and he had night terrors and whatnot, and there's a reason I'm saying that. Anyway, he was laying on the couch in the living room, because he used to like to sleep on the couch and more in the bedroom, and that was fine. And I hear him just screaming, and I think, okay, it's a night terror. It's okay, don't freak out. So I go running in there, and I stop dead in my tracks, because in the living room where he was laying on this big old couch, the curtains, there was a street light right outside, and the curtains were drawn up to where it was pretty lit up. I saw what looked like a tall, thin, Egyptian-looking kind of cat with extremely, I didn't have chihuahuas yet, but they had chihuahua-type ears, but like really, really big ears. And it was like a sphinx-like. Is that what they're called? And then there was, I saw it, and it faded. And then at the one, I saw something move at his feet, and it was like there was someone there too, and it kind of bent over and just faded as it kind of just did that. I mean, I stopped. I mean, I was shocked. And then, of course, I ran over to him, and he said he felt something in his hair, and he felt something pulling down the cover at his feet. And what's really weird is I actually, again, Christy, a friend of my daughter's, well, my friend too, she had had a similar experience where she had felt like a cat kneading her back when she's spending the night, and they'd seen something walking and all that. So I do think, and there's actually probably more to the story I just told you, but it was just weird is what it was. I feel like there was even there have been sightings of something there that wore little red shoes. You can read about it in my book. If you want to email me or message me, I'll send you this story. No charge. But also another friend had seen, and her daughter had seen years apart, little beings that had red hats over near Marion Elementary School. She had seen this, like blocking her path to go in her house, and it scared her, and I think it just faded. And then years later, her daughter, who knew nothing about that, saw exactly the same thing. There have been other people, and it's really predominant, it seems like, over in the Clinchfield area, Ridge Road area, over towards the lake maybe, where people have seen beings in their house walking around, and they don't seem to fit the alien genre kind of thing. They do seem to be otherworldly, more earth-bound, beings.
So if we sense or see them in our living space, or somewhere we are, should we attempt to engage?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I just don't think that. Don't think it's safe. I mean, as long as you're very, very respectful, maybe to a degree, it's like, you know, when you ask for something, then you get it kind of thing. It's sort of like that's what happened. I feel like with me, I was not really expecting to get a message, you know, but then I did, and then I had to think, okay, I need to really be careful about what I'm wishing for. Maybe it's good. Maybe, you know, maybe I'm messing with something that's very intriguing, very interesting, but you want to tread very lightly too, because you don't want to cause offense.
Well, you know that little what I call the fairy ring or the fairy circle out there where I live. I very, very, very seldom go out there. You know, it's an easy walk from the house, but it's not like I'm afraid. I just feel like I'm not needed there. Or
exactly. And you know, there's such a thing as fairy glamour, which is how they can make themselves look like a certain thing, or, you know, to make things seem different. And there's all these stories, you know, about if you ever get into the fairy realm, you come back like years and years and years have passed, even though you're only gone a few minutes. So I do think they maybe live in a dimension or have a passageway to other dimensions where time is definitely not as it is here. And I do think they're very connected. They're elementals. You know, there are many, many levels and many, many things, but they're very connected with nature. And I think when you offend nature, you offend them as well, which I guess they're staying offended at this point.
Yeah. Well, what other type of otherworldly beings could we be talking about? And are the fairies, are those the same as the Cherokee Little People? Do you know?
I think they're the same realm, and I don't know anything. As I said, there are many, many levels, many realms, but I do think they are all part of that one. If it were a pie that you were dividing up, I'd say those things belong to all this one slice of pie, you might say. But yeah, the ones at Lake Lure, is that the one we're talking about? Oh, no, we're not. You're talking about something else. Yeah, the Cherokee.
They're little people that have been seen at Lake Lure, too, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, they were originally spotted, I believe, by a Methodist minister back in the 1700s and a group of people. And the Indians, the Cherokee Indians at that area, did avoid all that Lake Lure area, which it wasn't a lake then, but, you know, they avoided it because they felt that it was haunted, not by ghosts, but by the good people, you might say. And I don't like that energy there. It's like compelling to me one way, another way it's just too heavy. It's too much. I don't hate it. I don't know how to explain it. It just makes me, it's like I'm drawn to it in one way. It's like I want to see, I want to touch, I want to know, but at the same time it's heavy, and I feel like I kind of have to push a little back a little bit too. I always get a kind of a eerie, that's the word I'm looking for, a very eerie vibe over in there.
Well, you know, there's been a couple other really weird things that have happened there. First of all, you have Rumbling Bald, and the name comes from the fact that there was this unexplained tremor, you know, earth tremors coming from there. I think that was in the 1800s. And they had experts come from everywhere to try to figure out what's going on there.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, but that's why it's called, you've heard of Rumbling Bald.
No.
Okay, well, it's one of the mountains there in Hickory Nut Gorge. And there's also a little resort area or housing area that's named that too. And then there's the story of, again, I think this is probably the 1800s when that area was being settled by white settlers or by Europeans. There was the battle that played out in the sky.
In the sky around Chimney Rock.
Yeah.
That's where that song comes from, isn't it? Ghost Riders in the Sky.
That I don't know about.
I think I read that somewhere, that was, you know, from that story, Ghost Riders in the Sky. But anyway, they say that at Chimney Rock there was like a portal or something, a doorway. These beings come out, and they were like human-sized beings, men, women, children, whatever else. And I believe it has been spotted more than once. But I do think at one point they did see like a ghostly battle also. And heard it. Yeah, they watched it. So that is one eerie place where maybe one world is leaking into another. So maybe go there and check it out if you like stuff like that. They had those ponds, you know, those whirlpools,
bottomless pools.
Bottomless, but you're not allowed to go out there anymore, I don't think. And it's a shame, because that's another place where, again, it was extremely eerie, and I think a way to get a sense of those beings. But you don't have to go there. You can go on up to Chimney Rock into the park. And there you go. We hadn't even planned on telling you some place to go, but there's where you want to go if you want to get a sense of the good people right there.
Yeah. I saw a comment scroll through a while ago. Somebody was talking about they were at a hospital visiting a friend, and they saw they just went out to kind of clear their head, and they saw a ferry zip by. It's
so awesome. You have no idea how I would love to be able to see that. I want to see that. I want to have that communion with them.
Is that a good omen? Or
I feel good about it. I feel like it's just a gift. It is just a gift, is what I think. Any way you look at it. So I think that's pretty awesome. And by the way, somebody said, "Oh darn, I missed this. I just now tuned in a minute ago." This will be uploaded to my website and to my YouTube page. So you don't have to be watching it here right now. If you come in late, just go later to my webpage, AngelaFayeMoore.com, or you can just Google Hillbilly Psychic, or you can go to YouTube and find me there too. Okay, go ahead now.
Just one other thing I wanted to say about the Cherokee Little People. They say there's proof of them at Western Carolina University in Cullowhee. During the construction of that college, they found tunnels that were all up under that area, but they were only big enough for something that size to be walking around. And there's a book about this. A lady from up in Cashers wrote. Her name's Mary Joyce, I believe. And anyway, you can look for her and find that book. It's not the best written book I've ever read, but she's done a lot of poking around, and people have come to her with information. So she's really done a great service.
Well, see, now that reminds me, I have a friend, and he's up in the mountains. You met him, and he said that his uncle was a miner, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling this, but he said that his uncle and the miners saw, while they were way deep underground, a little man, a little person that ran away from them, I believe he said now. But I thought that was so interesting. So that may be connected to the same people, little people, that you're talking about.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay. Anything else you want to say about otherworldly beings, little people?
This is one, I believe, the lady that was telling us that. Well, I can't see more right now. But thank you for sharing that. That is awesome.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say on that subject?
Probably not. I like to wait till we get much further into a different subject and then suddenly remember and go back. That's the way I roll.
Okay, let's see. I made a couple of notes here. You mentioned a while ago about a magic tree, and while we're talking about things that are nature beings, you're talking about the magic tree.
I do think trees have a spirit. I do. I think that they have their own life energy, and I think that sometimes people can feel it. But God, over there, it's back over into Clinchfield again. I'm gonna have to take people on another ghostly tour. Maybe this time make it just go over there to that house tour
and just sit in the yard until something happens.
But there was this tree out there, and it was just a really old, nice tree, and Little Mill Village. Nothing special. But this tree, I think that it had. This is where I left that message, and there was just something compelling about it. But there was these. I won't tell you the big story. I'll save that for later. But for example, there was.
I'm going to write it down so we don't forget.
There was somebody's asking about the Brown Mountain Lights there. I don't know. I think it's a nature thing, but it may be very well connected to the other realm. I would not be a bit surprised to find out if that and the fairy realm were not connected.
And by the way, we talked about that, I think, the first Metaphysical Matters we did, so you might want to go back and check that out on YouTube. Okay,
so Brown Mountain Lights. So I think all that, man, that's eerie. My niece, I think she'll mind me telling you, saw a light, like a blue light. It wasn't a bug, because she's looking to see. And it actually came up and landed on the toe of her shoe. And kind of freaked them out a little bit.
And where was she?
Brown Mountain Lights, Wiseman's View.
Wow.
But anyway, this tree, I feel like it had the energy of maybe a native woman in it somehow. And I do believe that can happen. I do believe a human soul can maybe come, inhabit a tree like that. I think some native cultures do. But it was just kind of weird because I was coming home one day and my client was already on the porch waiting on me. And I saw two women up there. And the one was very thin, and she had long black hair. She reminded me of a woman I went to church with, so I stared at her because I'm thinking, is that her, But anyway, no, of course it wasn't. Anyway, I pull up and I jump out of my car and I run up to the porch and open the little gate there, and the lady was sitting in there, the other lady. And I said, hey, and then where did your friend go? And she said there was no one with her. I saw that woman. I saw her. I was looking at her because she looked like someone I knew. So, I mean, it wasn't like I glanced up and just made it up in my head. Okay, then later, another lady comes to the house, totally unrelated. I go to the door. She's a kind of well-dressed lady, well put together and everything. And then this little girl, long black hair, real dark eyes, real dark eyes. She's peeks out from behind her and like pulls back like she's real shy, you know. She was wearing a little tube top, and it was kind of. It occurred to me that the little child was dressed more like a person of lower means, and the lady was dressed more like, you know, somebody. They didn't match quite, because I kind of noticed that, like, you know, little kid looks like my little kids would look, like she's being garbed from somebody from the thrift store, but this lady had a more kind of expensive kind of look. But anyway, it was just weird, and I said, "Come on in," and then I told the little girl, I said, "Come on in," and there was no little girl. And I asked her, you know, where did she go? She didn't know what I was talking about. Had no idea what I was talking about. And again, I saw her. It was like a thing. I saw her black eyes. I saw her straight black hair. And in hindsight, I think it's like a different form from the woman, you know? I even woke up one morning, and I was still half awake, half asleep, you know how you get. And I felt this little kid laying on me, thinking, she was feeling nauseous, her stomach was hurting, and I'm like not awake, so I'm petting her like this and thinking, oh God, I hope I don't get this, being the wonderful humanitarian that I am. And then I wake up, I don't have a little girl, and it was gone. But the thing is, somebody else, and this is the final part of this particular little ramble here, was waiting on me, and I got home, and she said, you know, I not think you're going to think I'm crazy, but I was sitting there on your porch looking at that tree. I could have sworn I saw a woman with long black hair, real thin woman, sitting out there in that tree. She knew nothing about none of this. None of it. So, and evidently I ran late a lot over there, because it's like there's more than one time I come home and they're waiting on the porch. But I don't know, that's not the biggest story of all, which maybe I'll tell you next week if we do this. If you want us to continue, please let those, you know, let us know, because it means a lot to me to hear that you people are actually interested in anything that we're saying. I'm so thrilled. Thank you for letting us know that. And
one time when I was here, I saw just split second, it looked like a little boy out front. He looked like he was dressed like one of those little gnome figures. Knicker kind of pants on, out there by your fence.
I did not know this.
Well, actually, I told you at the time, but that's okay. Well, I mean, you got a lot of info that comes in and out. That's okay. It's been a while, and it's just like I didn't make a huge deal out of it, other than, hey, I just saw something. Because
this is what happens around Angela's house.
Yeah,
we see these things. Oh well, let's have a sandwich. It's nothing.
So it made me start thinking about, because that little boy reminded me of those little gnome figurines that people used to have in their yards a lot. Do we kind of invite them in when we put out those kind of images?
I think we might. You know, I have a baby doll in there that my kid's definitely afraid of. So I think that there are these wayward beings sometimes that can inhabit the yard gnomes and these things. The kids where I used to live used to think this big dwarf, which somebody stole, thank you very much, I hope you choke on it, I think that they thought it came to life every night at 9 o'clock. I mean, I know somebody's grandpa put that in their head, but they fully believed it. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me a bit. I mean, you know, I just think that even though there's, you know, movies made of such things for kids, right? I think maybe we make those movies for kids because at some level we might sense that, yeah, there's magic and stuff happens, and these things can, you know, these things can be real.
Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to mention, somebody recommended a few weeks ago the Netflix series Dark, or The Dark. Was it Dark? I think it's The Dark. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now. But I've been watching that, and the reason I'm bringing it up, I'm not a big media consumer, but I'm really interested when really cool stuff is depicted in the media, and it can help you think about stuff. It's all about time travel and these different time loops and everything. Really complicated, dense, mind-blowingly wonderful stuff. But here's the question I want to ask you. That a central part of the storyline there takes place in the 1980s. Stranger Things, which we have talked about before because of some of the concepts that are explored there, takes place in the 1980s. It seems to me that the 1980s are really become very prominent in a lot of media right now.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, and I think I floated this theory by you a long time ago. I'm a DJ, and so music is kind of how I think about the world. And I've always thought that the last original music we had, which was the emergence of hip-hop and rap, was in the 80s. And after that, it seems like we just went on rinse, lather, repeat. I've always felt like, in many ways, we entered some kind of loop or sometime during the 80s, and we still haven't gotten out of it. Does any of that make sense to you?
I can see where you're going with that. Maybe it's true. Maybe some people did get spun out of it, but maybe there's still a lot of people who didn't. Maybe they're still working on finding their way out into whatever world we're in now, which is absolutely not that world. I think it might be some stuff that's made about that time because that's when so many adult people were young and coming of age, and where the world just made sense to them, and there's a lot of nostalgia. But yeah, I do think that there may have been a turning point where things took a very strange turn.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say in a plainer language. It just feels like that is the time that something fundamental shifted.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
And the kids, it's just the kids that were born at that time are not like the kids that were born maybe in previous times. They're much more psychic. They are, I think, here for higher purpose. Some not so good, some for great, but don't seem to be as much maybe in the middle. Of course, there has to be some in the middle, but it just seems to me like there has been a great influx of people coming into the world and starting in the 80s and continuing, who are here for, again, higher purpose, not for their own self, not for their own higher purpose, but for the planet, for the humanity maybe. And yeah, I've seen a few very special people that are now in their late 30s who are, I don't know, more attuned to things than maybe previous generations were able to be.
One thing's for sure, it's not the same world that it used to be that time.
Neen was talking about, she relates to the Mandela stuff, and yeah, I know we were talking about that in a previous episode too, and I was actually having another thought about that the other day, about remembering something and then finding out that that didn't happen in this reality, in this timeline.
And you Kelly's saying the 80s were real, nothing is real anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get that, and sometimes I wonder if this is going to be so out there that if somehow during that time we didn't get spun off into some other place. Like it's almost like a reflection of it's the upside down from Stranger Things. If we didn't get spun off into an upside down of the world that we were in, it's very strange.
I have no idea as to how to comment on that, so I'm going to say I don't know.
Yeah, but we're sensing that. Okay. Well, we kind of got off in the weeds there at the end, but that's what's fun. So next time, I just made a note that we might want to talk about indigo children or something like that.
Well, maybe a little bit. I'm not as knowledgeable on that. I've basically told you everything I know about that in that past sentence, but to bring it up again, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
We'll see what happens, and you let us know, people, what you want to know about too, and what we don't know, we'll make up.
Yeah, let us know what you want to talk about, what you want us to talk about next week. But I'm sure we'll come up with something too.
And I will tell you that story, or I guess I could. How many minutes have we gone in?
43.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, since it's more related to this, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
And I apologize because I know some people have already heard it, and I'll try to give you my condensed, like that exists.
The Reader's Digest version.
That doesn't exist. I was doing a group thing on aliens because I was doing a lot of things. It was a series of group things, okay? And the one happened to be that week about aliens. And, there's people that have heard this story before. Again, I'm sorry. And but anyway, it kind of blew my mind to this day. It still kind of blows my mind. But anyway, I was doing this little group thing at my house, and I had bunches of people come over. Bunches being about 25 people, which was good for a little bitty small room. And one couple came a little bit late, and I'll tell you the first name, Scott and Michelle, because they know I tell this story and they're in it. So anyway, I go to the door and open it to let them in, and they looked a little bit frazzled, and I thought, what's wrong and everything, and they said, oh, we're sorry we're late. We had to pick up our friends at the airport. I hope you didn't mind them coming. Well, of course not, And I look behind them, and there's 3 Native American people, and I assumed they were Native American. One was wearing this vest, and for some reason I had it in my head they were the Cherokee from Oklahoma. I don't know why I had that in my head, but for some reason I did. And it was a man about 30s, and then a woman probably in her late 40s who was short, wearing a dress, and a tall, weird looking dude. And I don't know why I say weird, because he looked like a regular normal human being, except he was tall, a little bit thin, and the stern expression. But hey, come on in. So they come in, and everybody there was Caucasian, which I have people of all shapes, colors, sizes. That particular day they were. So these 3 kind of stood out, being that they were dark, right? And also I knew everybody there. I didn't know them, so I not paid attention, because you know how it is. You want to make new people feel at home. You want them to like you and whatnot. And it was kind of weird too. Off subject a little bit. I felt a lot of Aquarian energy there that day, and I asked people, how many of y'all are Aquarius? And every person on the left side of the room were Aquarius, except one who was standing to the left of his Sagittarian wife. So he was to the left of her, but he had to stay over there with her. So I thought that was weird, but it stuck in my mind, and there's a reason I'll tell you that. But anyway, carry on with it. I kept noticing them, and then they got ready to leave, and I went to the door, shook his hand, and he says, I'll see you again. And I thought, that's good. Thank God they like me. That's what I thought I felt. Then I have a memory of seeing them leaving the car. A silver car. I remember. I don't know how. I don't know if I went back to the door, and I don't know why, but I know I saw them leaving the car. And I'm thinking, why did they have to be picked up at the airport if they had a car? And why are they leaving now when they're not here? But anyway, it just really struck my mind. Well, everybody left, and Scott Michelle sat on the porch with me. We were talking, and I kept talking about the tall man, because he was so weird. He didn't make any expression. He just stared at me, and it made me nervous. The other people, I felt like more animated from, even though we didn't have a conversation or anything, because I kind of hide from people a little bit. But anyway, during my break. But anyway, I kept going on and on about him. And then they said, we don't really know what you're talking about. We did not see the tall man. And I'm thinking, what do you mean you didn't see him? We did not see the tall man. We don't know what you're talking about. And it freaked me out, because I'm thinking, but you brought him here. They didn't see it. They didn't bring him there. Okay, time goes on. Freaked me out. I even called, I don't know if I called somebody at that time or not, but anyway, I'm sure I did. I was going on and on. Nobody could see the tall man. Well, anyway, I told the story I just told to you at another group event. And I hesitated telling this story for a long time, because I'm sure as soon as I do, these people are going to show up. It's like, what are you talking about, idiot? We've been coming to see you for years. But anyway, I'm telling this to another group. They happened to come in right when I'm telling this story. They were late. And they said, I'm sorry, you misunderstood us. And I'm saying, what do you mean I misunderstood? I don't think, oh, great, here it is. I'm telling this story, made a total, jerk of myself as usual. And they said, no, we just didn't go on with it because you seemed so excited that you couldn't see him. So the truth is, we didn't see any of them. They did not bring them. They had no memory of telling me that they had brought them at the door. They knew no idea what I was talking about. I hope this is still recording. It'll be recorded if not, because I'm getting a message saying it's a low network connection, but it'll pick back up in a minute. It'll be okay in the recorded version. But yeah, that happened. And so because I remembered all the Aquarians being segregated over here, I knew who to call. So I called around, because that stuck in my mind about the people. Nobody saw them.
Wow.
So I tell you that, but black eyes, dark skin, it's the same energy as the woman, the same energy of the little girl. And again, if they come knocking on the door, I'm going to be utterly embarrassed by the whole thing. But that happened, and there, have that.
Wow. There's this British comedian, or used to be, named Alexei Sales, a matter of fact, from the 80s. I don't know why he just popped in my head, but he used to say, it's a strange old world, or it's a funny old world, eh? So it is.
It is. And somebody said there's some glitching at the beginning. Now, that may be the story I'm telling. I tend to have an effect on machinery. My daughter is worse at work. I've heard they won't let her stand near anything new, any x-ray machinery or anything, because it will be destroyed. But it should be recording on my phone at least. So hopefully that you can go to my website and see the whole thing and hear everything and be able to get it, hopefully.
Okay, well, since the universe is pulling the plug on us, I guess we should just sign off. What do you think?
Yeah, we're having a low network connection again. So thank you all so much. See you same bat time, same bat channel, Thursday at 1, Lord willing, if the creek don't rise.